You're listening to Completing the Shelf, a nerd review podcast where two brothers take a deep dive into all of the corners of nerd culture, from film and television to video games, graphic novels, and whatever else we're passionate about. This week we're going to spend some time in the world of Avatar. Not the blue people Avatar, but...
No, that's the worst one.
Yeah, well, no, it's pretty good, but it doesn't compare at all to the magnificence of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Well, specifically, we're doing the New Hope of this one. This is just season one, the New Hope version. It's because it's the beginning to start out the Take Against the Empire season one of Avatar.
Wow, I've never drawn that connection, and exactly right. This is the New Hope of the Avatar franchise.
And season two is the whatever the middle one is. I forget. Because, you know, he even in season, sorry to divert this to season two immediately, but he even has to like go help his friends and stop learning in like with Yoda.
Well, okay, let's get back on track. Today we're talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender season 1 only. Now, Tommy, this is one of your favorite shows of all time, correct?
Probably my favorite, I would say.
Okay. It is one of my favorites of all time too.
Just under Star Trek. I've rewatched easily the most. Probably rewatched for a while, for like 4 years straight. I rewatched this every year.
Yeah, same.
And it's equally enjoyable every time. So I was let's talk about it.
Can I ask you, since we're talking about season 1, how did you first get into Avatar? What was your first reactions, if you can remember?
I was a kid. I loved it. I mean, what I remember clearly, one of my most clear memories as a kid is the episode, is this season 1? If I'm talking about, it's not, maybe, the tunnel episode. It's not in season 1. And I remember Avatar or Aang and Korra kissing, and like the first time.
Aang and Korra, huh?
Or Katara kissing, and it was like the first time as a kid that I've ever seen like a romantic scene and like understood it. That's what I remember from Avatar as a child. I never really watched it continuously, like every episode, the next one. It was just bits and pieces, but I still loved it as a kid, so I went back to it, and I realized as a whole it's even better than anything I ever thought as a kid. What about you? You were an oldie when this started.
Yeah, I think I was in college I think the first year of college, I was walking out of my room, and there you were watching it on TV. And so I sat down. I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
Actually well written.
Yeah, well written and choreographed and nice animation. I'm like, this is great. Oh, that's great. I'm glad there's some good cartoons out there.
But you didn't think much of it, yeah?
No, like I thought, great love it. But I had a life. I was too busy, school and
had a life. Not anymore.
Now, no life. No, but then, yeah, I think you came over one summer, and didn't we start watching it on Netflix?
I think I just watched it independent.
Okay.
Of you even, like, you were in the room sometimes, you were not. I just wanted to watch it because I realized it was on Netflix when I was up there. Yeah. Just for that short period it was on. And I watched
I think we got through, like, at least half of the first season. Once you left, I went through the rest.
Oh, it's so good. It's
within, like, 2 weeks. Less than that, really.
It deserves it. I mean, when you talk about one of the pillars of Western animation, this proved our worth almost in TV animation. Like, we got some respect finally.
Well, it was such a crafted show. So let's talk about the craft of the show. The creators, I can never remember how to say their names.
Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko.
Those guys. Yeah. They left different projects, I think Family Guy and
Invader Zim,
because they wanted to change how animation was done for television, and they wanted to give more creative control to the artists behind the projects, and because they themselves were artists.
Yeah.
I think that was an amazing change.
A noble goal, yes, indeed.
It didn't all work out, they say. You can listen to tons of interviews with them. But
yeah.
What they did commit to was storytelling, and the serialized storytelling, which is unheard of for Nickelodeon and a lot of animation at the time, except for like the Justice League.
Yeah, and they did it in a way where it looks, not only is it written well, it also looks just as good as it's written. And so the budget for this show was more intense than any Western animated show pretty much seen before. Those are usually very simple.
yeah, we have to thank Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings franchises for
I
this
do.
show. Cause,
That was I remember Nickelodeon won some big kid sprawling adventure just to bank on that interest, and they're
yeah.
like, we don't really like wizards, but we got this thing.
No, like Brian, he said, one of the execs said, like, look, go develop something, and it needs to have magic and action. Do it.
I got
And
it.
they're like, after a lot of time, they came up with this, and boom, there you go, we have it.
You know what I like about it?
So
It's not like this was a thing they were forced to create. It wasn't like this thing from childhood they've always wanted to make. And I think all the limitation of time bred this creativity, and I think
yeah,
it's really
like
interesting.
Brian was doodling an Aang-like character for a while with Naga, like Korra's dog, and that just stuck with him for a while. And then one night he had a revelation and ran over to Michael's house and said, "We have to do this now." And they pumped out the entire world of all the benders and everything
Yeah,
in like
I
one
want to
night.
ask because I have the collector's edition of season 1, which includes the pilot episode.
Yes,
Have you ever seen it?
I have.
What do you think of that? Because that's a totally like Katara's not even named Katara in it. Like it's very different art style.
Isn't
Well,
Katara the name of Aang's daughter in Korra? I think it's
no,
the same name.
no,
No? Okay.
no.
Anyway, go for it. My thoughts, what I thought about the pilot was that it was an interesting precursor. You could see them working out the ideas of how the physicality of the world will work and how bending will work. Didn't quite have the characters down yet, but you could see the promise of the show. So it's an interesting artifact of its preliminary work.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. You see design concepts that will come up like in season 3, like
Exactly.
in the pilot. But so first episode, Boy in the Iceberg, I think is like the perfect setup. Now my only problem with the first episode has nothing to do with the actual episode, but
Animation.
and well, not even that. It's every single DVD out there has the first episode, and it's horribly done, like rendered for the DVD. It's the
It
worst.
is.
The first 2 episodes are hard to watch because they look
ugly.
just pixelated. It's not well rendered for the DVD. After a couple episodes, it gets good, and it kind of every time I want to start up a watch again, there is that little hurdle of getting through the DVD's poor quality, and they've yet to re-release it in any more improved way in season 1.
Yeah, it's quite disappointing, especially if you want to like get something hooked. Someone's hooked on this series. That's a rough beginning. But as I was doing this little mini rewatch to prepare for today,
Mm-hmm.
I was just struck with how quickly the show dives deep into its mythology.
Well, here's the thing about the first episode. I think really it needed an hour, and I think of 1 and 2 as the same episode.
I
It
agree.
really is. You need an hour to set up this world. For episode 1 kind of sets up the characters, and episode 2 sets up like the world and the dilemma, and the goal.
Mhm.
And so if the first episode doesn't hook you like you thought it would because of the hype, I think it's because it needed an hour, and you need to watch that second episode. Then that's like the first episode to me.
Well, it is at the end of the second episode, the Avatar returns. They go off on their adventure, and then the third episode is the Southern Air Temple. Right? We got a new story within this, because the show is a good mix of episodic
new
and
location, too.
serialized.
You're not in the
yeah,
ice
new
all the
location, beautiful location. I love all the temples that they give us. It's so detailed with all the
Amazing,
statues of the avatars. Amazing, amazingly detailed.
You're talking about Southern Air Temple, and all that stuff's great, but the best part is the Zuko and General Zhao face off, and
It's true.
and how Zhao like is this at the end, turns to this like wicked, like horrible cheating tactic, and Iroh's there to, stop his attack against Zuko when they're battling, and it really just that sets up, one of the best relationships in any television show, Iroh and Zuko. You really
is.
get it
I mean,
there.
Iroh is that father figure that Zuko never had, and we all love to hear Iroh's goofiness and the wisdom mixed together, all the tea references.
He's the show. To me, Iroh, and especially this first season, is really, really, and second, he is the show to me. He's probably the most interesting character, most fun to watch. He's got the best jokes, and And in episode 3,
He's a
you
good
really
heart.
realize this.
See, okay, so let's stick with this Southern Air Temple. I think this was a huge moment for the first season.
I think this is where you realize this wasn't your average
Exactly.
show.
I was going to say that exactly. Like, this is that moment where you realize, oh, there's some depth here. Because you see the pain of Aang when he sees Gyatso.
Yeah.
His mentor's corpse there rotting after 100 years.
Oh, that's a legitimately sad scene.
It is. And I'm like, oh, this is not just a happy-go-lucky action kid show. They're going to explore some reality here, at least emotional reality. So that's... And then you see the horror and the power of the Avatar state there. It's kind of uncontrolled, and it's just rage. You get that sense that he's more powerful than he lets on, and he doesn't even know how to control this ability.
Yeah, you get to see a couple times his Avatar state where he's using different bending techniques than he knows.
Yes. Especially in the Winter Solstice Part 2, when Avatar Roku arrives and fights off the fire sages, and I think Zhao's there, and also Zuko.
Yeah, I mean, this show is, and even Avatar Returns, episode 2, that he uses the Avatar state.
Waterbending, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, because after that, it's Warriors Kyoshi episode, and really, this is where you kind of get a comedic episode. What do you feel about the comedy of season 1? How does it stand up to, is it funny? Is it not? Is it too kiddie?
I think it's not laugh out loud, usually.
Okay.
But it's character-based and situationally based, that it's balancing that undercurrent of darkness that we just talked about, the sadness behind Aang, and 100 years, everything he's ever known is gone, To me... And so Sokka is providing that balance, even if he's a little goofy.
So that's the thing. Sokka, I don't think, gets into his own in season 1, but when I'm talking about specifically Warriors Kyoshi, I think that one is one of the funniest episodes in the entire show. I think that show is a lot of the best jokes. They have the foaming mouth guy when Aang does his little trick and he just collapses and foams at the mouth. They have a great bit at the beginning of the episode where it's like Zuko's trying to track down Aang and he's like, oh, he must be a master of evasion. And then it cuts to Sokka. We're so lost. It's just like...
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good jokes in Warriors Kyoshi, but I don't think season 1... I don't think they're in the groove yet as well as they are in season 2. So it can be a little awkward, some of the jokes, little campy kitty, but I think there's also some really solid jokes there too.
Well, that's the thing with the Avatar, the whole franchise. It matures with its audience. So its audience was supposed to be young in the beginning, and the kiddie jokes probably worked for the kids. Maybe on second rewatch when you're 10 years later, it's not as good, but I think it holds up. But as the series progresses...
Is there an episode out of season 1 that really... your favorite? What's your favorite?
Oh, that's really hard to say. I mean, I really love the Blue Spirit.
Let's go on.
With Zuko, and he takes on the mantle of the Blue Spirit. Did we talk about that? No, I don't think we talk about that.
We don't talk about that.
Even my students, they all groan at that.
Because this is such an important thing, and it was stolen.
Yeah, the Blue Spirit, a great idea. I love the music cue associated with it. That's when Jeremy Zuckerman can really experiment a little bit with the sound of... I forget what the instrument's called, but I love it.
You're almost right, Chris. You're almost right in what the best episode of season 1 is.
Is it the Storm?
You're almost right. Yes, that's the real best one.
Really?
That is the real best one.
I see those as... Yeah, okay. You can't have the Blue Spirit without the storm before it. Can you tell everyone what the storm's about?
The storm is pretty much the backstory of our main lead and our main villain, Zuko and Aang. And you get to see the parallel, and you get to see the hint of, there's a little gray area to our villain. He's just a kid, he's kind of just not really sure.
Well, let's tell some plot. In it, he challenges his father, and his father challenges him back, and they're about to fight to the death, maybe, or the Agni Kai fight.
Yeah.
And the son, Zuko refuses to fight and gets scarred and banished by his father. And so he can't come back until he brings back the Avatar, which is like an impossible task
No
put
one
on
even
your
thinks it's
son.
real. Yeah.
Exactly. So his father's basically banished this kid with a mission that is impossible to find the Avatar.
And Aang kind of banished himself, running away because he's afraid of being the Avatar, the responsibility, and then gets stuck in ice for 100 years. Like,
Yeah. So both of our characters are kind of damaged in some way, and they're having to live up to impossible standards.
now, if by this
And
point, you were still unsure of this show's quality, there's a beautiful scene in The Storm. It's the very end, the last
Oh,
scene
yes.
of the whole thing, where Aang is flying away on Appa with his team and gives a look at Zuko, and Zuko sees him, and there's no dialogue, but you understand what they're thinking. And there's this like subtext to it that really is like beautifully woven in because we've just learned their backstory, and it's this really, really like poignant scene, and it doesn't overdo it. Doesn't go to an inner monologue or maybe we're more alike than we thought.
yeah,
It's
that's the thing.
really subtle.
Tommy. One thing that there's maturity and there's maturity and a difference from regular cartoons. Just at the end of the winter solstice, the crew just fly off, and there's just music and nothing else.
Yeah.
There's no wrap up or anything like that. Just like in The Storm, it just ends, and it
At
allows the audience to
yeah.
decompress with the characters in that moment.
At the end of Warrior Kyoshi, Aang is on top of a roof, I believe, and he's just looking at this town that's just a cinder, and there's no words, but you get what he's feeling. You get the responsibility on his shoulders. Like the fact that I'm here, I brought danger to innocent lives.
Well, that's the thing. The creators really trusted the audience to get in the head of their characters. They respected us in that way. They didn't have to feed us a lot of information. They just let the animation act.
Now, I'm glad The Storm came when it did, because it came right after the worst episode in the entire show.
Gosh. The Great Divide.
So, if you are watching Avatar, I just recommend skipping it. There's no plot relevance to it.
I haven't watched it in years.
I always skip it when I rewatch because it is very kiddie. It's so out of place. It's such a silly plot.
And then Jet before it. I'm okay with Jet.
I was gonna ask, what do you think of the Jet character?
It's so very cliche.
Yeah, me too. I think that the most interesting about that part is episode has
His
nothing to do
fighting
with
style.
Jet. It's nothing to do with Jet or his team. It's the showing that there is good people in the Fire Nation. There's regular innocent people who are swept away. There's
True.
regular, and then you never see that in kids show. It's always black and white. But this, it's like, wait, they're not evil if they're Fire Nation. They're still regular people just living their lives like regular old. They have no power. They don't hurt anyone. They just kind of swept away with the madness.
Lesson. I don't want to say lesson because I don't think the show tries to teach lessons.
I
But
think
what
it
an
does.
important theme to look at, to explore how the nation enemy has people in it that are just as victim as you might be against that enemy, right? And well, let's go back into the Blue Spirit. I love the Blue Spirit, and like you said, it can only come after the storm, where they have this moment of connection, right? And
They're
the audience
linked.
the audience has developed that too. And man, don't they link them even more with flashbacks later on in the series? I love it.
I mean, yeah, it's a great show.
Yeah, we'll get there. But the Blue Spirit, they actually consider we could be friends, right? After Zuko saves Aang from Zhao, Aang's like,
Just
"Whoa,
for
we
a
could
little
be
bit.
friends. We fought well together." Yeah, it's a moment that's foreshadowing the future, of course. But I just love the structure of this series. They plant all these seeds, and they pop up here and there, back and forth, and then eventually there's resolution as the series progresses. Well written.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, definitely one of the best written episodes. But no, best choreographed episodes. Some of the best action is in the Blue Spirit, and I would say The Storm is one of the best written. Blue Spirit has a lot of fun action in it, of them trying to escape Fire Nation compound. It's really, really cool set piece. The setting, they use it very well, interestingly.
See, that's the thing. The choreographed fights in this show,
They're incredible.
they have live martial artists acting it out for the animators to see. That's just that's
how you
a
should do it.
commitment to authenticity that a lot of shows do not commit to. So that's one of the reasons I think this is a well well-made show.
So, and then
What do
after
you
Blue
think
Spirit, the fortune teller comes up, and really, what I care about this episode is the character of Katara, because we get a little bit of the romance in this episode. I just want your what's your sense on Katara in this first season? How does she feel?
Well, I think this whole show, it might be Aang's show, but it's told through Katara.
Interesting.
She propels everything. Without Katara, there is no Aang. He's still frozen, right?
Mm-hmm.
She is the driving force throughout the entire series. Whenever Aang gives up or has, moments of depression or doubt, there's Katara. And I think she's a real force to be reckoned with.
I think what you realize in season 1 is this is not your average girl character. This is us. This is a smartly written. And
she's autonomous.
And I think you definitely see that in when they get to the North Pole, and she's refused to be taught waterbending because in that society in the North Pole they don't teach women.
You're talking about the episode,
fight.
The Waterbending Master.
Yeah, they don't teach women.
One of
how
my
to fight.
favorites.
And it's a very interesting commentary because you're visiting. You should, take part in the culture. But then she just gives up and she gets angry, and you kind of see this isn't your average. She can do things. She's helpful. She can, kick butt as good as everyone else.
Well, okay, so episodes like this can fall into a cliche of the
I have something to talk about
female trying to fight and find her spot in a male-dominant society. I'm the woman, I can be just as good as you. But it never gets to that level. It's about skill only, right? She's like, look at me. I can make an impact with my waterbending if you'll allow me to.
Here's a big thing about season 1 especially, that, you're going into it a little, it's a first season. You're just starting out. You kind of sometimes you see cliches pop up of other kids shows, but what Avatar does so beautifully is because when you said it doesn't teach lessons, I think it does, and it uses the cliches to do it, but it does it so quickly. It gets it right out of the way. Because sometimes, a lot of the times, like with episodes, that cliche is the entire episode, but here it's just the first part. And then they get deeper and they actually get in more interesting territory. I think that's something this first season does really well, is like, oh no, not this type of episode. Oh wait, it's over and there's really interesting stuff now. Cool.
Well, the cliches are maybe a starting point, but then the writing team and the animation takes it to another level.
No, that's what's great. It's like you sometimes you're like, oh no, not this type of episode again. Like in the Warriors of Kyoshi, where it's like Sokka's making fun of the women because women can't fight, but soon it evolves into he actually kind of gets into it and he's very respectful and he puts on the uniform and he's kind of proud, and then the Fire Nation comes and they have to fight off the Fire Nation, and you get to see all this action and all this lesson in action the same episode. And then there's some with the Aang stuff, it's some deep meaning in there too, and fun comedy at the beginning. So it's like you see the lesson, it goes right away. Same with Aang and Katara, where Aang kind of gets over his head from the popularity of the citizens of the Kyoshi Islands, and Katara's like, "Don't get over your head," and that there's that lesson, blah blah blah. But then it only lasts for like 5 minutes, and then.
But I think maybe the difference.
You get the deeper.
The difference is those lessons are for the characters and not the audience. There's
Well,
no you see Timmy moment, right?
Yeah, but I think there is. I mean, I think there was a mindset to put that in there because it's a kids show.
Sure. Well, can we look at one of the best action scenes I think of the series is when Katara is challenging the Water Master and the Waterbending Master.
That's it. Yeah, that's one of the most beautiful, especially because you don't get to see a lot of water on water in this series. This is probably one of the few times. So
it's reminiscent of that episode in Book 3 of Legend of Korra where Aang's daughter is fighting. Who's the bad guy in Book 3?
Well, yeah, but that's air versus water, I believe.
Yes, but the way water is being used, it's
great.
creative.
No, but and this one's even more interesting because it's on an icy field.
Exactly.
And that so they
use
that to
there's sheets of ice flying everywhere, and just awesome. You really see Katara, and you're like, yes, Katara, you are pretty awesome. Oh, this is a show I would love to show to my daughter.
Oh, this is a great show for girls. This is such a great show because you get a lot of just really great girl characters, and unfortunately, and especially Western animation, you get a lot of templated girl characters, and they're just pretty pretty princesses or cute little cutesy obsessed, whatever. This is a great show for a growing girl. I think I think that's why its fan base is so diverse. A lot of cartoons fan bases that are still really passionate are mostly male, that are in pop culture. But with this one, it's a pretty diverse mix.
Well, let's move into the Siege of the North.
So the finale,
part 1 and 2.
The finale
yes,
of season
the
1.
finale of book 1. What are your thoughts?
To me, it's the weakest finales episodes of the show. I think season 1 is the weakest season, and so is this one. I think the main problem is Sokka's relationship with the princess of the Northern Water Tribe goes really quickly and really kind of melodramatically.
Yeah.
And there's this weird love triangle they like squeeze in for like so quickly and weirdly. It has a great joke payoff, but otherwise, there's no story payoff. And so it is I think it's the weakest finale. It's still great, but it is.
I think it does a great job in building the Avatar's connection to nature and the spirit world, and that whole dynamic of the series is really furthered here. And the first time I watched it, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's a giant water creature, like in the moon and the sun spirits and all those things. It was just a really creative end to a series that promised more.
I don't know.
But yeah, you're right. It's
here's
a weaker one.
Here's my main problem. It's probably the least logic that's ever been put into the show. Like the fact that General Zhao wants to destroy the moon is just stupid.
It's just general bad guy stuff. That didn't make sense.
It's very, very just I'm evil, and also it's like that's gonna ruin the world. Like not just the Water Tribe. I don't think you understand. And then the fact that she can become the moon with the whatever, and it's just there's a lot of weird stuff in it, and
what I like
kind of
about
lose
it,
the
though,
logical bounds the show usually has. That's really strong.
Well, usually implies what came after, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is them just putting it all out there and trying to see if something worked, and it didn't quite work, but I think it set up what was going to be an amazing adventure later on,
and it introduces the greatest villain of the series at the end of part 2, which we'll get into the next time we talk about Avatar. But I think it's the weakest finale of the show. I think it's the most plotting. It's not as engrossing. I mean, there's like the middle of season 3 is a better finale than this one.
Oh, sure. Well, they've just gotten so much better at the whole package of production at that
Mm-hmm.
point.
I mean, I wanted to talk about just a little bit of the side characters. So we get a little bit of Omash, the King of Omashu. I would like to give some on the pirates. I like these little side people. Bato. What do you think of the supporting cast of the show?
The King of Amashu. What's his name? Oh gosh,
I don't remember.
That's his friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll edit some of this out. Let me go.
Boomy.
Okay. Yeah, the King of Omashu, Boomy. I have a mixed reaction to him. He's kind of annoying because he's so screwball.
This is all we see of him, right? The whole season.
Yeah, and I'm just like, that was kind of annoying. I don't like rewatching that episode because I know what's going on in the beginning, so like the surprise and the flip is not entertaining.
I think the episode
kind of a dud.
The idea that someone is alive from Aang's social circle is interesting.
Yes, absolutely. And later on, when he comes back, it's better in later seasons.
I would agree. So then we have Bato the Water Tribe. So what do you think of that? I think it's interesting because you kind of see Katara and Sokka's kind of family, and they're these people that have left their tribe to go help fight this impossibly large villain when they're just like a ragtag group and they're like gaining ground.
This is like the rebellion in Star Wars, right?
Well, New Hope.
Yeah. I have nothing really to say about Batu. It's cool. I think we needed to touch back in the Southern Water Tribe.
So that episode in particular, I do have something to say. I think it's the worst Aang episode.
That's the pirate one, right?
No, that's when he hides the letter from Bato from Katara and Sokka, which is so out of his character. And
I think it shows us that he's a real person and selfish.
I don't know. I don't think
You
it
don't
was.
like what he did.
I don't think it was congruent with.
Well, consider that he's finally got a family back, right? He
I
has a
understand.
family
Yeah,
now.
I think it
And he
just
doesn't want to
wasn't
give that up.
executed as well as it could have been. What do you think about the location design?
Beautiful and expansive, diverse. The show really takes us on an adventure, and I mean, if one of the premises that inspired the show was the Lord of the Rings, I think this surpasses the Lord of the Rings.
I think that's the best part of the King of
location.
Omashu episode. You get to see Ba Sing Se, and it's like the coolest place ever. It's
Oh,
like
and
this
everyone's
whole world.
obsessed with Ba Sing Se, even in Takora later on.
It's one of the coolest looking locations in a show, I think, and you get to see how it works, and it's set up.
It's all about the world building. I really get in the shows where the world seems expansive and endless, but detailed. And I think this episode, though not the best, it adds to that.
I mean, this is 2005. This is way ahead of its time, I feel. Here's one, and this show kind of helped me get into that anime style because it is very like, I think this is a good gateway. Same with Korra. It's a good gateway to get into that style of animation. It kind of opens you up to the ideas of Japanese animation. It's so inspired by that. It's so obviously inspired by what Japan has done, and I find
Miyazaki
that really cool.
definitely isn't it big influence.
Well, yeah, I mean, just TV anime in general, it uses a lot of those techniques. So I think for me, it was also the stepping stone to a whole nother medium because it gives you the appeal of it. It almost gives you like, here's the appeal of this whole other thing we're inspired by and we took notes from. And Korra even more so. Korra is much more anime. I mean, they're animated by an Asian company. I think it's Korean, but or Vietnam, something like that. But it's just a really cool stepping stone. If you ever feel like I want to get into anime, but it's too whatever. Like, started with Avatar and Korra, and I think you'll get more into it. These are some great shows.
I think the creators cited Cowboy Bebop as one of their inspirations for the show as well in terms of storytelling.
It's a group of 4 who travel around the solar system in that aspect, but
which you gave me on my shelf, and I'll be diving into hopefully soon.
I'm excited. It's a great show.
I'm too. Maybe probably we'll do that
probably right near the level of this. This
really,
one.
Even quality of animation and all that.
Oh, incredibly. Well, the big thing is, even with this, like, a lot of hand-drawn part of it, and that's what I love about both of these shows. The shows look beautiful. Even in season 1, like, once the DVD gets better, the DVD quality gets better, it does get better. It looks good, but I really wish they just Blu-rayed them. Like, there gotta be some file in the somewhere where you could upgrade it and make it look better, because it's a pretty atrocious first 2 episode rendering on the DVD, and it is embarrassing almost. And Nickelodeon, get your stuff together, because no, I can't do it. I think with season 1, plot wise, the least amount gets done. It's probably the least interesting, but it's like a setup. It's just a setup season. And I think that's what you really feel after it is like, okay, all the pieces are in place. We've gotten to learn about these characters. Now let's see them interact. Now let's see them grow and develop. Let's see the world and get larger and see more of it, and then get into like the nitty gritty of it and different dilemmas the characters can have with different activities. So that's an interesting part of it.
As I was watching the Winter Solstice, and Avatar Roku talks to Aang, and he says you have to stop Ozai before the comet comes, Sozin's comet, in the summer. I'm like, oh my gosh, this entire series is like a couple months long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just astounding how much happens and how much growth and how much investment we have with the characters in those couple months.
It really feels like a journey.
It does.
You really feel like you are on this journey, and that is a feeling very rarely replicated. And there's only a few shows I could even think that capture that same like awe at the world.
And it's a journey that you want to continue re-experiencing every year.
It's just as fresh every time.
It is.
It's just as timeless.
I'm just as surprised. I just watched a few episodes just for this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good.
And you know what? It gets better in season 2, which we'll get to. But
It really does.
season 2, everything is the Empire Strikes Back of Avatar in almost every way. And I really, really think it's just like people think that's the best Star Wars movie. I think season 2 is the best season, which we will get to next time we talk about this series of Avatar, which is probably my favorite show ever, and I know one of Chris's favorites.
Yes, this will be a reoccurring. I'm gonna restart. This will be a recurring series. We'll be doing one season at a time. Maybe we even get into some of the comics.
Yeah, and Korra, hopefully. I would love to talk about Korra too. Korra's another the sequel series that it's just out of this world, like quality compared to Western.
In my head, they are one thing.
Yeah.
You know, I just put the Avatar franchise, and it's just my favorite. I don't say, oh, they're two different shows that are my favorite shows. They're just one, because it's one connected universe.
Yeah, I know what we won't talk about. The movie.
No, unless we're saying what not to watch in regards to this whole franchise.
I think everyone knows the infamous.
Yeah. I have one student that said it's one of his favorite movies. I'm like, well, then you just got an F in my class.
I mean, it's not even like it. I guess we're gonna talk about it. It's not like even it's just like a bad adaptation. It's also just a poorly written and acted film and it's choreographed film. I guess it's like. It's not true to the spirit, like, you know, those book, you know, Nazis of like it's not the same as the book, but the movie's fine. Like, this movie is horribly written, horribly acted, horribly shot, horribly choreographed.
If the movie came out by itself and the show never existed, it'd be just another mediocre film.
And it
but
made
because what it came from what it came from was such quality that this is just insulting.
Well, that's why I'm only holding.
Happen.
One collector's edition, season 1, because they were going to plan to release these with every film of every season. So with season 1, they released the collector editions of season 1, which I bought. But then there was never a season 2 collector's edition because there was never a second movie.
Well, should we wrap it up? Any last thoughts on season 1?
It's start of something special.
Yeah, and I really suggest anyone that enjoys long-form storytelling that
Not
is
that long.
light. No, but 3 years. Like, it's serialized, right? So
that's what's great about it. It fits so much story into a short.
So if you want to dive into a world as rich and there's a lot to explore there, this is the Avatar series for you. I also suggest that you just
buy it.
I forgot what I was going to say.
You just buy it. Take the whatever the $30 whatever it is to buy it. Take the hit. You won't regret it. Especially once you finish it, you'll get to watch it again. You'll get some replay value.
Yeah, like I said, every year I rewatch this. So
I did not last year. I skipped 2016. I feel like I'm a traitor.
Well, 2016 was rough for you anyway, right?
This is rough. This is a weird year. But yeah, season 1, it's my least favorite, yet I can still talk about it for 40 minutes. Like,
exactly.
That's how much I love it. Like, this is like, yeah, okay, it's not the greatest season of Avatar, yet it's one of my favorite seasons of any show. Like,
yes. So, any weekly recommends this week?
Any weekly recommends? Hercules, the Disney animated movie, came out in what, the late 90s? 1997.
Okay, the year you were born.
I believe. Yes, 97. Yes.
And can you tell us why you need to recommend this movie?
No.
What's the enduring quality for this?
It's the best Disney movie ever. That's really the only reason. And I will fight anyone who says otherwise, or even just says it's not that good. Because I can't respect them as much. Like, they're not a respectable opinion unless Aladdin's your favorite, and then Hercules too. I can respect Aladdin, but still, you're wrong.
You know what Aladdin reminds me of? The beginning
of
season 2, The Legend of Korra. One of the best shows ever. Episodes of the whole franchise in Avatar.
How does that remind you of that?
A boy living on the streets trying to scrape up food eventually discovers power,
and that's where it ends.
Yeah,
that's where
okay.
It all ends.
All right, my weekly recommend is a podcast called Song Exploder. It's pretty awesome. It takes apart songs. It has songwriters or composers come on and take their songs apart instrument by instrument and give the explanation, the creative process they've gone through to build this song from the ground up. And I found it when I was doing some research for Jeremy Zuckerman. He did
The composer of Avatar.
of Avatar and Legend of Korra.
Oh yeah, the music's great in the show.
Oh, it's just top notch. It only gets better, especially in Korra. He actually gets live instruments to.
Yeah.
And the last 3 episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender, he gets a live orchestra. But
those are
no,
easy.
yeah, I can't wait to talk about those. All right, so Song Exploder for me and Hercules for you, Tommy. This has been fun talking about Avatar this week.
Avatar's awesome. Avatar's probably the best show ever. I think I can say that. I think that's agreeable.
It's one of the best shows of all time. Yeah.
Where does it where does it rate for you? Where is it for you? I want to know.
Like on a list?
Yeah, where is it? Is it number 1 like me?
It is not number 1.
Let me guess what number 1 is. Ugh.
It's a little known show. There's only a few episodes produced called the entire Star Trek franchise,
Okay,
all
so
729
is
episodes.
Avatar number 2 then?
Yes,
2?
it is right. It's right under Star Trek.
Good.
In fact, I'm sure Avatar ranks above certain Star Trek series. Like
Okay.
the original series, probably.
That's interesting. I like that it's that high.
Yeah. It
For something
probably
I grew up with is something that high for you, who's much older than me.
It might parallel the next generation with Captain Picard and all those guys. So yeah, that's a lot to say.
I just
for
passed
me.
out. I just passed out in my chair.
I know. Can you tell people how they can contact you on?
Definitely, if you want to contact
Twitter?
us, we have a Gmail account at completing the shelf at gmail.com. We have a Twitter account at Shelf Nerds, which Chris, of course, updates very, very frequently with all these pretentious, nerdy things that he says.
Can't help it.
If you like pretension and nerddom, put them together. That's a great Twitter to follow.
That's the package you're gonna get here. Consistent too.
If you like big words about really not important things.
Now hold on a second. The definition of a nerd is something that you find as vitally important to your life. All right, and others might not agree.
Really,
but
is the
that's what a
title
nerd
of the
is.
Star Wars Episode 8 that important?
Absolutely, it was. That's an awesome title. The Last Jedi. It's so suggestive.
It's just a title. I think it's just like exactly what I would expect them to call it.
You, sir, were not experiencing the internet's reaction to
that
title. There's so many theories.
I didn't relate. I think the internet, just anything Star Wars, it's already just perfect.
One interesting thing is people put together the title of the last movie and this movie, so it's The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi. I love that. That was great. Okay, but fun.
Definitely.
So many people are critical of these
Twitter,
type of things online.
It's all
I was just
him.
having fun.
I never post on the Twitter. It's all him. So that is it for Avatar Season 1. We will see you next time. I don't know what we're doing next, but it's going to be awesome.
It will be, and hopefully we've added the first season of Avatar to your shelf.
Ugh, that was gross.